I became a girl to save my best friend's life. I never thought of myself as someone special. I was just Jake, a regular 17-year-old guy trying to get through life unnoticed. I wasn't the loudest in the room, nor was I the kind of person people gravitated toward. I was just there. My life was simple. School, homework, video games. A cycle that never changed. I had friends, sure, but only one person truly mattered, Lily. She was my best friend, my anchor in a world that often felt dull and meaningless. Lily was everything I wasn't. Fearless, outspoken, full of life. She had this way of making the most ordinary moments feel extraordinary. While I stayed in my comfort zone, she was always pushing the limits, sneaking into concerts, trying out for plays she had no experience in, dragging me along on adventures I never would have had on my own. She made me feel alive. But lately, something had changed. The spark in her eyes had dimmed. She wasn't skipping class to drag me on impromptu road trips anymore. She barely left her house. At first, I thought it was just stress, senior year pressure, maybe, but it was more than that. She was slipping away, and I didn't know how to stop it. I tried talking to her, but she brushed me off, saying she was just tired. I wanted to believe her, but deep down I knew something was wrong. I felt powerless, watching my best friend become a shadow of herself. The truth was, I understood that feeling more than I wanted to admit. The quiet dissatisfaction with life, the sense that something was missing. I had always felt out of place, like I was walking through life wearing the wrong skin, but I never had the words for it. I had buried that feeling, ignored it, convinced myself it wasn't important. But when Lily stopped being Lily, something inside me stirred. I couldn't lose her. I couldn't sit by and watch her fade away. I just didn't know how to save her. Not yet. Lily had been ignoring my texts for days. At first, I thought she just needed space, but a nagging voice in the back of my mind wouldn't let it go. Something wasn't right. When I finally decided to go to her house, her mom answered the door, eyes red and tired. "She's in her room," she said quietly. "She won't talk to me." My stomach twisted. I rushed upstairs, knocking once before pushing the door open. Lily was curled up in bed, her room dark despite the afternoon light streaming through the curtains. Her usually vibrant walls, covered in band posters and messy sketches, felt lifeless now. "Lily!" My voice came out uncertain, afraid of what I'd find. She didn't move. A chill ran through me as I stepped closer, my eyes landing on the nightstand. An empty pill bottle. My heart stopped. "Lily!" I grabbed her shoulders, shaking her gently. "Wake up! Please!" She stirred, barely. A weak breath. Her eyelids fluttered, and for a moment, I thought she wouldn't open them. Then a whisper. "Emily!" I froze. Emily. Emily had been Lily's first love, the one person she had ever truly opened her heart to. But Emily had moved away 2 years ago, leaving Lily shattered. We never talked about it, but I knew. Lily never got over her. I swallowed hard, gripping her hand. "Lily, it's me. It's Jake." Her expression flickered, confusion clouding her face before she closed her eyes again. The paramedics arrived just in time. I stood outside her house, my hands shaking, my mind spinning. I had almost lost her. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't reaching for me. She was reaching for Emily. Lily didn't want to come back to me. But what if she could? What if, for just a little while, I could be the person she needed most? It was a crazy idea. Insane, even. But if it could bring Lily back, if it could make her want to live again, then maybe, just maybe, I had to try. The idea refused to leave my mind. Lily was still in the hospital, recovering. I visited her every day, but she barely spoke. She would stare out the window, silent and distant, as if she were somewhere else entirely. Somewhere I couldn't reach. But I knew who could. Emily. It wasn't just the overdose that scared me. It was the emptiness in Lily's eyes. The way she seemed to have given up. If she thought Emily was here, would it bring her back? Would it make her want to live again? But even as the plan took shape in my mind, doubts clawed at me. I wasn't a girl. I wasn't Emily. Could I really pull this off? The first person I turned to was my cousin Maya. She was the only one I could trust with something like this. Bold, rebellious, and always up for something crazy. When I showed up at her place, pacing nervously in her room, she arched an eyebrow. "Let me get this straight. You want me to turn you into a girl because your best friend thinks you're her ex. I winced. When you say it like that, it sounds insane. Maya smirked. It is insane. She studied me, tapping her fingers against her desk. But it's also kind of sweet. You really think this will help? I swallowed hard. I don't know, but I have to try. She was quiet for a long moment before finally nodding. All right, let's do this. The next day, I sat stiffly in front of Maya's vanity mirror as she rummaged through her makeup bag. This is so weird, I muttered, staring at my reflection. Maya grinned. Oh, you haven't seen weird yet. Now hold still. She started with foundation, brushing it onto my face with surprising precision. I resisted the urge to squirm. The feeling of it on my skin was foreign, like I was putting on a mask, but wasn't that the whole point? The real challenge came with the wig. Maya pulled a chestnut brown one from her closet and adjusted it over my head. The moment the strands fell around my face, something in my stomach flipped. I didn't look like me anymore. And that was both terrifying and oddly exciting. Maya stepped back, tilting her head. Huh, you know, you're kind of pretty. I rolled my eyes. Shut up. But my heart was pounding. The clothes came next. Maya had dug through her wardrobe, pulling out a simple hoodie and leggings. Nothing flashy, just something that might pass. Slipping into them was easier than I expected, but when I stood in front of the mirror, I barely recognized myself. You need a name, Maya said thoughtfully. Something close to Jake. I hesitated, then murmured, Jess. Maya grinned. Jess it is. Stepping outside as Jess for the first time was nerve-wracking. I kept my head down, my hands shoved into my sleeves, my heart hammering against my ribs. Every glance felt like a spotlight, every passing stranger like a judge. Relax, Maya whispered, linking her arm with mine as we walked through a quiet park. No one's staring. I wanted to believe her. I had thought this was just a disguise, a means to an end. But the longer I stayed like this, the more complicated it became. There was something strangely right about it, like I had unlocked a door I didn't even know existed. That thought scared me, but I couldn't afford to think about myself right now. This wasn't about me. It was about Lily. And tomorrow, I would see if Jess could bring her back. I thought I was ready. The next morning, dressed as Jess, I walked into Lily's hospital room, my pulse pounding in my ears. She was sitting by the window, her arms wrapped around her knees, staring at nothing. She didn't even turn when I entered. I swallowed hard. This has to work. Hey, Lil, I said softly, keeping my voice as light as I could. She froze. Her head jerked up, and when her eyes met mine, I saw something flicker in them. Hope. Confusion. I wasn't sure. Emily, she whispered. A lump formed in my throat. I forced a smile. Yeah, it's me. Lily's lip trembled, and before I knew it, she had thrown her arms around me. Her body shook as she sobbed into my shoulder. I thought I'd never see you again, she choked out. I hesitated, then hugged her back. It felt both wrong and right. Wrong, because I was lying to her. Right, because for the first time in weeks, she was holding on to something. But keeping up the illusion wasn't easy. Over the next few days, I kept visiting as Jess. Lily started eating again. She smiled, actually smiled, for the first time in forever. But each time she looked at me, with that unfiltered love in her eyes, guilt twisted in my gut. And then there were the slip-ups, like the time I walked in without remembering to adjust my voice. Lily had blinked in confusion. Your voice sounds different, she murmured. I forced a laugh. Oh, just a cold. Or the time she reached for my hand and frowned. Your hands, they feel rougher than I remember. I quickly pulled away. Been working a lot. Each mistake chipped away at my confidence. How long could I keep this up before she saw through me? And worse, how long before I saw through myself? Maya insisted I needed to practice being Jess outside of Lily's hospital room. You're getting sloppy, she warned. People will notice if you're too stiff, too nervous. So one evening, we went to a coffee shop. Just a simple outing. Nothing crazy. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it, eyes on me. Real or imagined, I wasn't sure, but every glance made my skin crawl. My hands shook as I reached for my drink. Then a voice. Excuse me, miss. I flinched. The barista. He was talking to me. Miss. I nodded stiffly, taking my coffee. My heart raced, but I did it. I passed. But the victory was short-lived. As Maya and I were leaving, a group of guys near the entrance laughed. "Dude, check that out," one of them muttered. My stomach dropped. They were looking at me. One of them sneered. "That's a dude in a wig." The world felt like it was caving in. Maya grabbed my arm and pulled me outside before I could react. "Don't listen to them," she said sharply. "They don't matter." But they did. Their words clung to me like oil, seeping into the cracks of my already fragile confidence. I wasn't really a girl. I was just pretending. And if they could see through me, how long before Lily did, too? That night, I stared at myself in the mirror, the wig still in place. My hands trembled as I touched the reflection, my breath shaky. Who was I? Jess had started as a lie, but every time I looked in the mirror, I wasn't so sure anymore. And then I thought of Lily. She was getting better. She was smiling again. And if keeping this up a little longer meant saving her, then I had to do it, even if I wasn't sure who I was anymore. The night before my next visit to Lily, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at Jess. She wasn't just a disguise anymore. At first, Jess had been a way to bring Lily back, to give her hope. But somewhere along the way, something had shifted. When I dressed as Jess, it didn't feel like I was pretending. It felt like I was letting go of something heavy, something I hadn't even realized I was carrying. I reached up, running my fingers through the wig's soft strands, and for the first time I wondered, was this really just for Lily? Or had I been hiding from myself all along? A knock on the door startled me. "You okay in there?" Maya's voice was soft. I hesitated before opening it. Her eyes widened as she looked me over. "Wow, you look different." I frowned. "Different how?" She studied me for a moment. "You're not just wearing the clothes anymore. You own them." I blinked, taken aback. Maya smirked. "Come on, let's make this official." She dragged me back to her vanity, dusting blush over my cheeks, perfecting my eyeliner, and reapplying my lipstick. With each stroke, I felt myself settling into Jess more and more, not as an act, but as something real. By the time she was done, I couldn't deny it anymore. I liked this. I liked me. The next morning, I walked into Lily's hospital room with my head held high. Not hunched, not nervous, confident. Lily turned, her tired eyes locking onto mine, and something shifted in her face. "Emily!" she breathed, but there was something different in her voice this time. She hesitated, then shook her head slightly, as if trying to clear her thoughts. For the first time, I felt the need to be honest. I took her hands gently, squeezing them. "It's okay," I said softly. "I'm here." She didn't pull away. Instead, she searched my face, really looking at me. "I don't think you're Emily," she whispered, her fingers tightening around mine. "But I think you saved me anyway." Tears burned behind my eyes. Lily had seen through me, and yet she still smiled. She still held my hands like I mattered. And for the first time, I knew Jess wasn't just for Lily. Jess was for me. The truth was hanging in the air between us. Lily still held my hands, but she wasn't looking at me the same way anymore. She wasn't seeing Emily. She was seeing me. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, my heart hammering in my chest. I could lie. I could keep pretending. But suddenly, that didn't feel right anymore. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Lily," my voice wavered, but I pushed through. "I need to tell you the truth." Her brow furrowed, but she didn't let go. I swallowed hard. "I'm not Emily." The words tumbled out, shaky but real. "My name was Ethan. I became Jess to bring you back. Because I couldn't lose you." Silence. Lily's lips parted, but no words came out. Her grip on my hands loosened slightly, and for a terrifying second, I thought I had broken everything. Then she whispered, "Why?" Tears welled in my eyes. "Because you saved me first." My throat tightened, but I forced myself to continue. "Before you got sick, you were always there for me. You saw me in ways I didn't even see myself. And when you started fading, I couldn't stand it. I had to do something. And I didn't just become Jess for you, Lily. I became her for me too." Her expression shifted, softened. And then, to my shock, she laughed. A small, fragile, but real laugh. "You always were dramatic," she murmured, shaking her head. Then her eyes grew serious again. But I think I get it. She reached up, her fingers gently brushing against my cheek. You were willing to become someone new to save me, she whispered. But I don't think Jess was ever new to you. I think she was always there. A sob caught in my throat. I had been so afraid that telling the truth would break everything. That Lily would be angry, disgusted, hurt. But instead, she was accepting me. Tears streamed down my face as I let out a shaky breath. Jess wasn't a lie. She was me. For the first time in my life, I felt free. The weeks that followed felt like stepping into a new world, one I had been too afraid to claim before. Lily's condition improved, slowly but surely. The doctors were calling it a miracle, but I knew better. She had found a reason to fight again, and in doing so, she had given me the strength to fight for myself. I no longer hid Jess. At first, it was terrifying. Stepping out into the world as her, as me, felt like walking a tightrope, waiting for someone to shove me off. But every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a version of myself that felt right. And that was worth the fear. Maya stuck by me, just like she always had. She even dragged me to the mall for a proper wardrobe overhaul, laughing as she made me try on outfits I never would have dared to pick before. You've been wearing my old stuff for way too long, she teased. It's time you find your style. And then there was Lily. She still had bad days, days when she was too weak to talk, days when the treatments left her exhausted, but through it all, she never looked at me differently. One afternoon, as we sat in her hospital room, she turned to me with a tired but knowing smile. So what do I call you now? I hesitated, the weight of the moment settling over me. But then I exhaled, feeling lighter than I ever had before. Jess! Lily's smile widened, and she squeezed my hand. Jess suits you. I blinked back, tears, gripping her hand in return. For years, I had been searching for something. Acceptance, identity, purpose. I thought I was doing this to save my best friend. But in the end, she had saved me right back. Sometimes, we think we have to change for others, to fit into their expectations, to be what they need. But the truth is, the most powerful transformations happen when we stop hiding from ourselves. I became Jess to save Lily, but in doing so, I found the part of me I had been too afraid to see. True friendship isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about being seen, accepted, and loved for who you truly are. And sometimes, the people we try to save end up saving us right back. Life is too short to live as someone else's version of you. Find the courage to be yourself. Because the moment you embrace who you are, not just for others, but for you, that's when you truly start living.